Hello. Okay, so tonight what we're going to do is we are going to look at going beyond the 5 with our power chord. If you're kind of stuck in a rut and you wanted to sort of break out of that power chord shape, or you wanted to do some embellishment on power chords, or you're just kind of stuck, what I'm going to do here is try to give you as many different variations of power chords. Okay, some will look like power chords, some will not look at all like power chords, but the whole idea is it kind of starts with that shape. So if we all remember the basic power chord shape, it's your 5, right? So your D5. So if I'm up on my D root right here on the 5th fret on the A string or the 5th string, that's my basic power chord. We all love it. It's great. All right, you flip it up one string over, there's your A. Okay, so we know those quite well. So what we can do right off the bat is use what are called octaves. All right, so if you know octaves, that's great. If you don't, it's just the next string down from where your 3rd finger would go with the power chord. So you're sitting on your A root, and then we've got your E right there, that's your normal 5, and then we just kind of round it out by putting the octave A in there. See right there? Okay, right there. So it just gives it a little more roundedness. There's your regular one. So you can kind of hear that high M coming out a little bit. I know they're lower strings and I'm talking about high M, but anyways. Okay? So you can kind of flip that around the other way. So if we go back to the D chord, the D power chord right there, you can still kind of use that octave idea, but now what you're going to do is you're going to reach low. So we've got that D and the 5 right here. We could go for a lower octave of that 5. And what that means is you're going to add 2 strings at the 5th fret right there. So you've got your 5 and your root right there. And then you add the rest of your power chord in for that D5. A little more throaty, a little more aggressive sounding than just the standard D. So there's your D, and there's your D with an A in the bass. Okay, so a little bit more growl, I guess, more bang for your buck. Now, if you wanted to, you could take that D that we were just doing, okay, D5, and do a higher octave. All right, so there's a D, there's a higher D, but then also have that low 5 in there as well. So let's explain it. So root, 5, octave, but then we also grab our lower 5 right there. So what was this is now this. A nice throaty 4-string power chord shape off of a normally light sounding D chord, right? D5 chord. Like the sound of that. That's pretty good. Okay, so that's kind of just some work with 5s. Now you're going to ask me about rhythms and stuff. Just wait a little bit. We're going to talk about applying strum methods and some rhythm along with these. I just wanted to give you the shapes right at the moment. So let's take a look at a couple of more shapes. One of the other shapes that you can try is using what's called a sus4. All right, so if you've got the 5th fret, sorry, if you've got the 5th right here on D, the 4 would be right there, just 2 frets back from the 4. So you've got 5, 4. Okay, so if the 5 is there and the 4 is there, also sometimes known as a sus4, okay, because you're playing it against that D root, you can also grab the 3, which is just 1 fret back. So you've got your 4, okay, so 5 was here, sorry, and then 4, and then 3 is right here, okay, and you could kind of go between those 3 shapes if you wanted to. The 5, alright, so some little movements there. It's really, really cool. You could even go chromatically if you wanted to. You don't have to go to the 4. You could go to like a flat 5, right? So you want to take it down even further, there's your 3 right there. You could turn it into a minor third as well. Alright, so a little bit of a stretch with that between your first and your second there. Again, it's a chromatic kind of exercise, so you know, use how you want with that. But I thought I'd throw that one out there as well. Okay, so we've got a bunch of majors and minors, some 4s. So what I'd like to show you now are some non-typical kind of chords here. The first one is what's called a slash chord. So a slash chord, basically what it is it's a normal chord, but the bass note is not the root. Okay, so in the case of like an A power chord, this is my A power chord here, and please remember I'm playing a 7-string. Okay, so this is your normal 6, and this guy here that I'm holding is my low B, so just kind of keep that in mind. So there's my A power chord. If I want to turn it into a slash chord, all I do is I just move down 1 fret from my root. So I'm going to accommodate a little bit different fingering here. So, but we got to think about what we're doing here. So what I've got is I've got a G sharp note here, and I've got an E note here. So what that in fact is it's actually an E over G sharp. So if I'm going between my A5 shape and the slash chord shape, that would be my progression. It would be A5, E over G sharp, A5, E over G sharp. Okay, and why that's an E major is because that G sharp is actually the major third of E. So if you went like E, F sharp, G sharp, it's actually a major chord. 2 notes and 2 strings, and it's actually a major chord. Well, enough to give it a major sound. Okay. And if you've ever been around during the 80s or have actually listened to any 80s music, you could actually walk that shape. So you can go from like a power chord to slash chord, power chord to slash chord. So it's kind of a cool thing. Kind of a nice movement there. Alright, so that's using slash chords. You want to do on the 5th string? Sure. So what that does is that turns your D5 into an A over C sharp. Alright, so it's kind of cool shape. So that's the next step is using some slash chords, so just kind of extending that power chord out a little bit. Alright, so the next one that I want to do is they're called the add 9 chords. Alright, they're pretty cool shapes. So what you're going to do is it's this shape right here. It's got again a nice throaty sound to it. What you're doing is you're adding the octave up of that 2. This is my root here, my A, and this is a B, and I'm grabbing a high B. So it's kind of an A5 with an actual high second interval, or in that case we call it a 9 because it's the next octave up, right? So you're going first finger, second finger, and then pinky right there. a great little shape there, and it's kind of cool. Just doing it as like a finger style. Okay, cool little walking shape. Okay, you can do some neat stuff with that, I'm sure. Jump it over onto the D shape, D root here. Okay, so that's a cool little shape up there. It kind of breaks through the mix there a little bit. And remember how we talked about adding the 5 there. So we've got our root, our 5, and our 9. You could reach down low and grab that 5, that octave lower like we talked about earlier. Okay, so from a D power chord, adding the 9, adding a low 5. Kind of cool. Okay, we can make some changes with that 9 shape and actually pull the 9 out of the equation. If I wanted to do like a high a high A power chord, so what I'm gonna do is, this is my A power chord right here. I can actually add a second power chord using that kind of 9 idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend like I'm doing that D9 that we were just talking about here. But now what I'm going to do is, with my middle finger here, I'm going to bar. Okay, I'm going to bar that 5th string and that 4th string, and then I'm going to bring over my my first finger there to grab that A root. So what you're really doing here is you're doing an A power chord, all right, with another A power chord right over top of it. So you get like 1, 5, 1, 5, and it's kind of cool. So that's a lot of bottom end there. You can hear that. So if it's too much, one other option that I do, and again, these are all suggestions, you can do whatever you want with them, is I'll take that higher power chord, and instead of doing the bar there with my middle finger, what I'll do is I'll actually mute that 5th string. So my first finger is going to come down on the root, and then just deaden that 5th string there. And then I'm going to do the rest of that octave up power chord, that guy right there. So it kind of gives you an octave, but it still gives you a power chord in there right there, that 5, that higher 5 there. You know, and you can go back and forth between the 2 roots. Again, we'll talk about some rhythm very, very soon. All right, so we've got the 9s, we've got the 9s with the 5s. We talked about a power chord over a power chord, and then just using a lower root against a higher power chord. Okay, now if that's not enough for this kind of shape, you can also add the slash chord on top of it as well. So how are you doing this? All right, so let's take that A9 that we were just looking at there. Okay, remember this shape? Okay, now watch this. What we're going to do is we're going to try very hard to do that power chord shape there from the 9, where we were doing that 5 and that high 9 there. And so what we're going to do now is we're actually going to do a slash chord. So remember that E over G sharp? We were doing it with our pinky, but now we're going to do it with our 3rd. Okay, but now, if we can, what I'd like to try is actually adding the pinky down here to make a power chord against that E, and then adding that low G sharp in there. So you actually got root and 5, then you've got that major 3rd sitting right there as well. See if I can demonstrate that a little bit. See it right there? And then bringing it down. Okay, may want to try that one up a little bit higher. Okay. Again, you know, you're using a power chord shape there, and you could actually, you know, you could go from that to like the 5 below, turn it into a 9, and then turn it into a slash chord. Kind of creating a nice little walking bass line between that that E over G sharp and A9, and then an E with a B in the bass. So that's that that 5 below. Sure, why not, eh? Sounds like fun. You can move some stuff around. Okay, so those are the stretch guys. Now another shape that you can use that works well are the minor 7 shapes. Now usually when you think minor 7, you know, it's kind of like Doobie Brothers kind of stuff, like. Okay, we're not doing that, though it is pretty cool. What I wanted to do was show you we only need certain intervals to make the minor 7 chord. You need the root, obviously. Well, not obviously, but we're trying to go for simple 3-string shapes here. So if I'm up on B here, okay. If I've got my power chord right here, if I just reach over and grab that 7th fret there on the D string, that's a power chord right there, or sorry, that's a minor 7 chord right there. Okay, pretty decent sound, you know. Add some hammer-ons to it, sure. And because we know about that octave, right, that higher octave from the root, okay, you could also hammer on a pinky and a 3rd finger, depending on what you want to do. So if I'm doing this, taking a minor 7 and hammering on that 5, so I'm going from the 4. Remember how we talked about 5, 4, and 3, and then 4? So I'm hammering on that 5 from the 4 and making a minor 7 chord. But I could also hammer on the pinky and turn that minor 7 chord into just a bigger power chord with the octave right there. So I could do that as well. Okay, let's slow it down a little bit there. So that's where my first hammer, or sorry, that's where my higher hammer on is going. So when this guy's down, I'm hammering on the pinky there. Okay, or I can just hammer on the 3rd finger by himself. Or, you know, I could even do both if I really felt like it. So that would be like a 1, 4, and minor 7 going into a 1, 5, and octave there. Okay, so that's one minor 7 shape. Now one that I really like is actually one where you're reaching for that minor 3rd below. Okay, so instead of a 1, 5, and a minor 7, we're now going to do a 1, minor 3rd, and minor 7. So you've got... Okay, I really like this sound. And you can think of it as a power chord too, right? Because you got your, if I was to do just these 2 strings by itself, well, there's my D power chord, right? All I do is add my middle finger on that B, and now it's a B minor 7. Hey, that's cool. You want to walk it down? Let's try this. So let's take that D, right? And then we're going to do the minor 7, B minor 7, and then we do an octave, right, of the octave of 5 of that D, so it's still a D power chord but with a low 5, so it's a D5 over A, right? And then we can stretch it out into a 9, so we're now making that D power chord with 2nd and pinky, and then adding a low G there to make it a G9. So then you get kind of, you know, this sort of thing. Kind of, again, using some walking bass line kind of stuff. And then you could, you know, do the slash chord. Or if you feel really rambunctious, you know. Right, so that's kind of cool. Now another thing to keep in mind, we talked about this this additional string, if we were doing a D power chord with an A in the bass, if the bass player in the band or the keyboard player was playing a low A and you were doing this shape, this actually would be an A sus, okay? Because you've got your 1, your 4, and your octave there. So it really kind of depends on where the bass note is coming from, okay? So this is my D over A, or D slash A, D5 slash A. But if the bass player or the keyboard player were playing a low A, this would now be an A sus4. And then, you know, you could hammer on the 5 from there. So you've got your D, and an A sus going into an A5. Okay, again, you know, more ways to look at it than just the static naming convention, all right? Okay, so back on topic. So we've got this minor 7, this minor 7, okay? Now, if you wanted to kind of go adjacent frets, you could do a minor 7 this way. So what we'll do is, in both cases, we were using that minor 7 in here, but you could actually go for a high 3 here. So what you would do in that case, and it's going to feel weird, is you're going to use your second finger for the root. Okay, so if I'm on B, here's my B note right there, okay? And I've got the D and the G string both sitting there at the 7th fret. So there's my minor 7 right there. All right, so 1, minor 7, minor 3rd. Okay, remember this guy right there? All right, so so kind of an interesting shape there. What's cool about that, again, is we can steal some of the knowledge that we already learned about the sus4s. Okay, so you've got your, let's take a look at that little bit right there. Remember how we talked about in a power chord, you've got your 5, your 4, and your 3, and then back to 4. If you take that B root, I don't know how well you could, well, I suppose you could do that. Let's try this, actually. That's kind of cool. That is a minor 11 shape, all right? So you've got 1, and you've got 7, and then you've got a high 4 here. Okay, that, because it's an octave higher, you add 7, so that makes it a minor 11. Okay, so you can go from that. Okay, so just kind of walking around some higher notes there with that 1 and minor 7 shape going at it. So that's kind of a cool little movement there. All right, so that led us into a minor 11 shape, which is really cool. I like that. So because this is a 4, watch this. That 4 can be turned into a 3, because if you remember what we talked about earlier between going the 5, the 4, and the 3, and then back to the 4 again. So what we realize then is that 4 is 1 fret back from the 3. Okay, so watch this. This is my minor 11. Okay, this is my 4 right here. I can resolve it back to the 3, right? Okay, so if I do this right then, if that's a major 3rd, then that means that's a flat 7 now, not a minor 7. And now that's your root. Well, that's a dominant 7 chord. So this is kind of cool. You can go between a minor 11, or in this case, if you're thinking about it in terms of a dominant chord, this would actually be a dominant 7 sus. Let's see if I can get that shape shown at you right there. Okay, so it's kind of a, this is actually, if you were to think of it as a power chord, this would almost be like a root and a flat 5, but because our root is actually right here, that makes this a major 3rd and this a dominant, sorry, a flat 7. So anyways, the shape goes, so we've got that guy right there, and then we resolve it down to, and the whole time we're using a B against it. All right, so you've got your sus4. Is this hard, right? Like, man, chord chemistry's a pain, but it's cool when you know it. So, and I am not an expert. Okay, there's guys that can just talk me a blue streak. So, anyways, so there's your dominant 7 sus, and then back to a regular dominant 7, which is just really, really cool. And yes, you have to do the obligatory vibrato when you go to do this, right? For some reason, it sounds really cool when you vibrate it. So, all right. So there you go. So we talked about minor shapes now, right? So you got your minor 7 here, minor 7 here. Okay. Oh, and you can also slide that. I forget the name of that Steve Vai song, but it's kind of a cool little riff there. And you're just basically just riffing off of that root note and just sliding that kind of like a double stop movement across there, but that's based around a minor 7 chord. Kind of fun. All right, minor 7s really do add a nice touch against some rock progressions. All right, so what do we got left here? Okay, some more non-traditional kind of things. When you're moving around a little bit, you can do what's called harmonizing intervals. So if I was to take like let's take an E power chord right there. Okay, 6s are a kind of a neat way to use basically a 2-string shape like a power chord and just kind of breaking it out a little bit more. So, but you got to know when to use the minor shape and when to use the major shape. But anyways, so let's say you've got your D power chord. If this is like your major root, then you would use a root and a 6, and it's just 2 frets up from where your 5 is. Okay, traditional blues rhythm, right? I'm not here to teach you blues. I'm not a blues guy. I wish I was. All right, so there's your 1. You want to go up, then you grab your a smaller shape now. This will make it a minor 6. Okay, because 2 is minor. Then you go up 2. Wait a second. I stand corrected. Okay, so 1 is with a major 6. If you think about the major scale mode, and we're a little bit bigger here. Okay, and then we get smaller on the 3rd step of the major scale. If we're truly harmonizing. Okay, so so I'm reaching back here to grab that that 7th degree, and then playing against adding the harmonized 6 there. It's only 2 shapes, okay? So you either have your minor 6th shape, or you have your major 6th shape, and you can slide between them, which is kind of fun. Okay, if you add it against like an open string, volume down a little bit here. Okay, so 6s are kind of cool, and so just slide around with them and experiment a little bit with those. Okay, now the other harmonized interval grouping, if you will, is using what we call thirds, right? And we talked about thirds when we were mixing up the power chord between the 1, the 4, and the 3, and that 3 is right there. Okay. Excuse me. So that's our major third. You want to make it a minor, you just reach back 1 fret. Okay, and you can, do something chromatic and scary if you wanted. Maybe drone like a low E. That's if you want to do it chromatically. But if you want to do it harmonically, then you just harmonize them each step across the major scale. So, excuse me. All right, so this is our major. Go up to the 2 and do a minor. Go up to 3 and do a minor. And 4 is major. 5 is major. Sorry, go up a little bit. 6 minor. 7 minor. And back to the octave major. All right, so. And then adding 4s every once in a while, sure. Okay, so thirds are a little bit tighter than 6s, so you don't have that distance in there. But it's still, you know, again, some ideas that we can use. Okay, so what is left? Well, one thing that I didn't talk about was actually just taking the power chord itself, and let's say you have a very simple progression going up from G, A to B. Well, if you want to do octaves, then all you have to do there, sorry, I'll back up a little bit here, is rather than having your power chord right there, you're going to take your third finger, drop it down a string, and now your first finger is actually going to rest over top of that, not bar, but rest over top of that 5th string. Okay, and you just slide it around that way. Okay. So that's kind of a fun thing that you can do. So just rather than doing it as a power chord, try it as an octave, and then you don't have that 5 kind of messing up the mix a little bit there. You have definite root notes shouting out right there. Okay. All right, so the I think the last chord idea that I have for you here is using the 3rd, but using it up high. So what you're going to do is, let's grab that D again. You're getting comfortable with D by now. And now you've got a major 3rd, but what you're going to do is you're going to skip a string. Okay, so we've got our D here, we've got our 5th here, and then if you're going to go 2 strings over, and if you know your major bar chord, what we're going to do is we're going to ignore our octave here. We're going to try to mute them with the underside of our 3rd finger, and now our pinky is going to grab that 3rd. Okay? Do you hear that high end coming out a little bit? Kind of like a sound garden sort of sound. Okay, really kind of, that 3rd just jumps right out at you. And obviously there's a 6th string version, so you start with the power chord. And actually, if you know your bar chord already, then you're already ahead of the game. So you're just going to take that that pinky finger out. So you're going to go 1st finger on the 5th fret, 3rd finger on the 7th fret, skip a string, and then grab that G string or that 3rd string with your middle finger right there. There's your major 3rd. So 1, 5, muted, and 3rd. All right, so you mix that in with the other shape, the 5th string shape. Good old Hendrix chord, right? But you get some pretty good mileage out of those 2 shapes. And I haven't really done much with the minor on this guy. Doesn't really sound that great, but the minor actually on the 5th string is not too bad. Okay, but again, we're kind of getting out of rock territory there, but you know, use it as your own discretion. Usually if I'm doing minors like that, I'll just do the whole minor 7. So yeah, so minor 7 there, if you know your bar chords. Alright, right, so just using some thirds there. Okay, so let's now talk about some different rhythm ideas, because as you noticed when I was playing, I mixed the rhythm up a little bit. So there's a few different ways that you can apply rhythm. I'm going to move the camera over a little bit now. All right, just so you can see my pick hand here. So what we're going to do is just talk about a few different approaches to playing this kind of stuff rhythmically. So obviously straight through, no biggie. Okay. If you want to roll the volume back a little bit, clean up and just do some back picking, right? Who says you have to do straight eighth notes, right? You can. Right. So if I want to do like a minor 7. Okay, so I was using minor 7s and then that D with the 5th in the bass and then that 9. Okay, so you can do some arpeggiating. So you're just going ba da 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 da. All right. If you don't want to do that, you can also try pivoting, which means you're always going back to the root and then jumping over to a different string. So this works well with palm muting. All right, so yeah. Some good old pinch harmonics, all right? I did a session on pinch harmonics not too long ago. So you could do, I don't know, try pivoting and adding some pinch harmonics. Alright, so pinch harmonics are a great way to kind of break that rhythm out a little bit and kind of grab the listener's ear. Sliding, okay, again, another idea that you can use. It's an approach. Alright, so so usually if you think it in context of like an 8-note count, you're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So what you're going to do is you're going to take one of those ands and make it a slide. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, and that slide is going to remove one of your pick strums. So pick, slide, pick, 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 slide, pick, pick. Okay. Love that 9. All right, so sliding is a good one. If you want to actually take the slide and actually just stay within the chord itself, you can take that A power chord and just do a slide into. All right, so let me demonstrate. Alright, so what I'm doing there is taking your A power chord and then just going 1 fret up, alright, and sliding that 2 frets up. So with my power chord, I'm going to use my 3rd finger, slide it up 2 frets, and then these 2 spots that I grabbed with my 3rd and my pinky, I'm now going to grab with a bar with my 1st finger. Okay, so you got to shift positions a little bit there. And obviously you can slide back, right? Or you can repeat that those 2 notes once you've made that slide. Right, so tons of stuff has been written like that. Try it on the 5th string. Right, so lots of good stuff that you can do with sliding. All right, so the last one I kind of covered already a little bit, but I'm just going to quickly review it. So what I want to do is take a D power chord, but within that D power chord, I'm thinking of that that major shape. So what I mean by that is, remember how we were doing, right? So let's just talk about the 4 and the major third. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna think about that while I'm doing my D power chord. So I've got D and my third finger and pinky right there. Okay, and now I'm gonna move over to that, remember that minor 7 shape like this guy? Okay, where I did 1, and, sorry, I'm gonna change a little bit here. So 1, those 3 notes right there. All right, so I'm gonna do that same idea with that chord, but now I'm going to use my pinky and my third. Alright, so I'm doing that major third and that 4, but now I'm using B as my root. So I've got D here, and then B. There's nothing wrong with grabbing the G here, sorry, the A here. Okay, or so okay, so just taking a nice little and then moving some bass notes around. Alright, so wow, that was a lot of work. So hopefully you stayed with this, and if you have any good questions, or any questions really, just send a comment and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Hopefully you found this worthwhile, and I look forward to doing some more videos real soon. Take care.